This is the Psychiatric Intensive Care Unit at Delhi's Institute of Human Behavior and Allied Sciences. Today, 3 patients are on a suicide watch. 33-year-old Rajni, not her real name, was admitted the previous day. Heavily sedated, she's been kept in a separate room within the ward, where her father and an attendant keep a watch over her.
भी रोती रही थोड़ी देर, रोते रोते कह रही आप हमें हमारी बात क्यों नहीं मानते हैं, लाके क्यों नहीं देते हैं कुछ, हमें जाना है, अपनी मम्मी के पास जाना है, दादी के पास जाना है.
Rajni is a single working girl belonging to a lower middle class family. Her mother committed suicide 18 years ago. Some months ago, Rajni began expressing suicidal thoughts. Then she made repeated suicide attempts. Her father believes Rajni's depression was triggered by his unemployment and his inability to arrange her marriage. In another part of the capital, activist Kamala Bhasin talks to us of the depression her daughter went through.
My daughter, Neetu, she was studying for a PhD at Oxford, and she realized she was getting into a depression. She was willing to go and see counselors in Oxford University, and they were very nice. But she was very resistant to taking medicine. And I think that's the problem, and particularly with very intelligent people. They really believe that this illness, they should be able to cope. Somewhere that understanding that if you have a headache, you take a tablet. If you have asthma, you take something, any other part of the body. Somewhere we're not able to understand that brain is also part of the body and it can malfunction for some time, and perhaps medicine can help. She was in London in a friend's flat and had gone to the British Library the previous evening, had ordered books, etc., etc. And the next day, she committed suicide. As fast as that, the first attempt, and she was gone at 27.
Soft-spoken, talented and humane, Neetu died in 2006.
I believe that it was not anything to do with social reasons of failure or love problems or boyfriend problems. I really think it was biological. And you know, she was open about it. So in her memory, I've started an award called Neetu Memorial Award for Young South Asians. It's called Celebrating Social Commitment. I need her presence in my life, and as you will see in my house, she's all around. Things she had brought to this home, for example, that Buddha at the back, she's there because she's inside me. She inspires me and she pushes me to do certain things. And I really do want to now this year write some simple pamphlets in Hindi and English about depression, about basically depression, etc., in a human way, and in that right way for technical details, go to a doctor.
The black dog had finally succeeded in hijacking my life. When you lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this was the time that I sought professional help. This was my first step towards recovery and a major turning point in my life.
WHO says every 40 seconds, someone somewhere in the world dies by suicide. In India, statistics available with the National Crime Records Bureau show 1,33,623 people committed suicide in 2015.
India has one of the highest suicide rates in the world. Many of those who committed suicide were affected by severe depression.
According to WHO, depression affects people of all ages, from all walks of life. It impacts people's ability to carry out even the simplest of everyday tasks, sometimes with devastating consequences for relationships with family and friends, and the ability to earn a living. At its worst, depression can lead to suicide, now the second leading cause of death among 15 to 29-year-olds.
Those vulnerable to depression include people who have an alcohol or drug problem, people who are suffering from severe emotional stress, chronic illness, or people who are victims of violence and abuse. There can also be vulnerability due to genetic factors.
At that time or subsequently, I kind of examined.
Psychiatrists say suicides are preventable. Usually there are warning signs that someone is seriously contemplating suicide.
A few myths about suicide which are relevant here is that it's often said and believed that barking dogs never bite. So if somebody talks about suicide, he's unlikely to do it. The biggest myth of all. Any one of us in this society, but certainly a person undergoing depression or with a past history of depression, talks about suicide or ending one's life, all antennae and all activities need to go up. It's safer to err on the side of acting a caution rather than not doing anything. The second myth, very commonly, if somebody has decided to end his life, he will do it. What can you do about it? You can't help. That's not true. Every case of suicide is preventable, at least in theory, and 98 to 99% in actual practice.
If a person says to another person, I don't want to live, I'm fed up, it's a cry for help. Verbalization of suicidal thoughts or suicidal intent is a very, very significant indicator of what's going on inside the person's mind. If there's an attempt which failed, you can be absolutely certain that if the depression is not treated, there is going to be a repeat which will be much, much more planned, it will be more intense, and it will be done with such planning that the person is not likely to be caught up.
In a progressive step, the new mental health care bill passed by the Lok Sabha last week has decriminalized suicide. Section 309 in the Indian Penal Code previously prescribed a prison sentence of up to 1 year for attempting suicide. The bill states that any person who attempts to commit suicide shall be presumed, unless proved otherwise, to have severe stress and shall not be tried and punished under the code.
If someone attempts suicide and is not successful, then in that case the legal process used to start. So it used to be a difficult case, no doubt about that. There will be a change in the police approach, and it's more of a sociological and psychological conditioning. Maybe a certain regulation may come that in those situations inform maybe the social department or maybe to some other agencies.
Under the bill, the government will have to provide treatment, care and rehabilitation to a person who attempted suicide to reduce the risk of another attempt.